Welcome to Vibrant Voices. I'm your host, Charles Elliott, and we continue our conversation with French documentary filmmaker Jil SERVANT. This is part 2 of our conversation. And so I would like you to share with our audience, the story of Marie-Josephe and,
Yeah.
how that whole thing came about and what led you to do this documentary.
So as I told you, I began to make documentary movies in the year 2003. Like you said, also I was not long, but I also was a teacher in more in a production aspect. Because if I'm not a director, I can be also what we call in France a production administrator. It's about accounting and payroll in on the shootings for feature film or soaps. So yeah, of course, I'm not only a director, but even if I'd like to, but it's impossible in France to be only a director.
Mhm.
I'd like to say that. So when I started, so I told you that I often shot in Martinique, and actually, now I can say I made many movies about women in Martinique. So first, my first film, it was about a woman that now is famous even in the US. She was called Paulette Nardal, and it was in the beginning of the 20th century. She was the first English student in French. She was French from Martinique, but she was studying English in La Sorbonne in Paris, and she was the first English student, and she became journalist, and so she met many people in Paris at that time. And so she met many people that was in the Harlem Renaissance, even Langston Hughes, Conti Cullen, and many other. And it's thanks to her that I discovered Harlem Renaissance. So, so I made a portrait. It was the movie is her life in Paris, and after she had to come back in Martinique, and so she died in 1985. So I didn't have the opportunity to meet her. I was too young, but I met her family, and so my movie is with her family in Martinique and many people that knew her. And for example, thanks to her, I could meet Maryse Condé, the writer, because she really loved her also. And so this was a special movie for me, one of my first. So it's called The Pride of Being a Negro Woman, because this is the beginning of what we called in France négritude. It was before, because many people didn't know that, but it was before Aimé Césaire and other writers. She was older, and maybe as she was a woman, she was much less famous. But so this was my first movie about a Martinican woman. After, as I told you, I met her family, so I met her niece, who was alive when I shot the movie, and her niece, I didn't know her, but actually she was a very famous opera singer. Uh, she died 5 years ago, but she was called Christiane Edapierre, and she really traveled all over the world to sing and with the most famous opera singers. So she was really impressive. It was also impressing woman. So this was another Martinican woman that I made a documentary movie about. There was a third one, also about not a famous one, but almost anonymous. But it was a special story for me. Actually, it was about a nurse, a young nurse from Martinique that arrived in Paris in the 60s. And she, before I was born, and she was on TV in a magazine, in a documentary, in a magazine on French TV in the 60s. And so I watched that movie and I said, oh, I hope I could meet her. It was 40 years after, so I saw the movie. And I managed to meet her 40 years after that movie. And of course, my wish was to make another movie. What did she become, and what? And so, yeah, I managed to make another movie with her 40 years ago about yeah, all those nurses from Martinique that came in France, and it was a special story because, for example, she died also a few years ago, and so she had a son. It's almost me because we were born the same year. Our mother was from Martinique, and we lived. We didn't know each other, but we lived in Paris, and that was very strange. So now he's a real great friend, and so that was my third about a woman from Martinique. So yeah, I told you I was raised in Paris, but it was my grandmother from Martinique that raised me. So now I can say that's why maybe of course, made so many movies. And so uh, I can speak now about maybe I hope I'm not too long, but about
No.
another woman from Martinique who was really in the film industry, and she was called Marie-Josephe Yoyot. So I didn't have the opportunity to meet her because she died in 2017. Uh, but I knew her because so she was an editor, and she was an editor of course, in movies I watched, such as Rukazneg by Özan Palsi, and by also another director I studied when I was a student. It was the director is called Jean Rouch. He's an ethnologist in the 50s, 60s, and he made documentary movies in West Africa, especially Niger and Ivory Coast. He's French, white, but he died in Niger and he's buried in Niger also. And so he's really one of the first French directors that shot in West Africa, and really special movies. It was called Cinéma Direct. And one of his movies that I studied at school was I don't know the real title in English, but so in French it's Moi Noir, so maybe in English it's Me, a Black Man.
Mm.
Or, and so it was shot in 1958, and the editor was Marie-Josephe Yoyot, a young woman from Martinique. And so that's how my movie started, because
Uh,
so I knew those movies, and actually I discovered a really special woman that worked in the French cinema industry during 50 years. And 50 great years for the French cinema. And she worked with many great French directors. And she had we have a special ceremony. You in the US, you have the Academy Award, what we call the Oscar. In
yes.
French, we have the César, and she received three Caesars as the best editor. So she was one of the greatest editor in the history of the French cinema industry. And so I made a movie about her work, and what was special, it was that I made that movie also, yes, because she was from Martinique. She was like me, she was born in France, but her father was from Martinique. And what was special, I didn't know that, but I discovered that she was from the same village as my family.
Wow.
And so our families are buried in the same cemetery, and so that's very special to have known her. And so when I came back, of course, in Martinique, I met many people that could tell me about her family, about her, and that was very nice for me.
What was so special for me because I didn't know um, the history of this woman, and when I saw the documentary, I thought it was really, it was for me, it was really an education, right? Because I had no clue, um, even in France, that this person exists, and she was so prolific and so great at what she was doing. And I think, like a lot of people lose this type of history. They don't know um, about, like, say, this woman, Marie. And I think if people, would learn about her, she could be an inspiration for a lot of young
Yeah.
people today. Because
Mm,
I'm sure when she started, she had a lot of obstacles that she had to overcome,
mm,
to get to where she was winning the awards that she won for her
mm,
work, right?
mm, mm.
And so my question to you, when you started sending that particular documentary to festivals around the world, what was some of did you had any like pleasant experience, or what was like the reception to the documentary like?
So I will speak about also the Paulette Nardal, the first one I told you about, because it
Mhm.
was the same experience. Um what was really surprising for me is that when I sent to festival, almost the only festival that selected the movie was in the US. They were in the US, and it was the same, a little in the UK, and most of them in the US. And so I discovered that it was maybe people, US people, know her more than French people. And yeah, it was very difficult in France to show it outside Martinique or Guadeloupe, outside West Indies. It was really difficult. And I told you that because for the cinema of Marie-Josephe, it was the same. It was the same because, yeah, it was broadcasted on national French TV, but no French festival selected it. And I had, I'm very pleased. Huh? It's really surprising, and I like it. But I had many selection in the US. At least I cannot count them, and there was prices also, and so I was really happy for that. But the problem is that, and of course, yeah, the other thing is that it is especially black festivals that select the movie. So maybe it's less a surprise because yeah, she's from Martinique. She's a black woman. It was the same for Paulette Nardal, and it's the same for me. But yeah, it's not. I'm not disappointed, but this is the market. The market is like that. So when you make a movie about a black woman, it's a US and not the French. It's a US black festival that selected it.
But I tell you what, though, I share with you. Yes, it's about a black woman, but when I watched it, I wasn't thinking, "Oh, this is a black woman." I was saying, yeah, I recognized that she was a woman of color, but I also marvel at her ability, her
Yeah,
craft.
yeah.
Her, that's what stood out to me in watching the documentary. That this
Mm,
woman was dedicated to her
mm,
craft and she wanted to put her best work forward. And that's what I saw, you know. I didn't s- I didn't look at it like, oh wow, this is a woman of color and
mm,
stuff. That wasn't in my head,
mm, mm,
I was just enjoying the documentary and I was enjoying just seeing something that I didn't know knew exists before, right? And so for me,
mm,
it was a really pleasant experience and it was really an incredible journey. That's why I asked you specifically, what was your experience
mm.
like? And so I was thinking like people saw it the way I saw it, which is you can't really put it that way because people have different point of views when they look at films and stuff like that. But I really thought it was a really great film, and it was well received at our festival. We didn't. It was one of the best feature documentary at our festival, and so it
Oh,
went over really well. You know.
thank you so much.
You know. So
And
I
yeah,
appreciate your work, and I think it was really great piece of work, and I think more people should see this documentary, you know.
yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. I didn't make that movie only for black people. Of course, this is not my goal. I never make a movie for a special part of population. But the market is like that. But yes, for to speak about her, she's yeah, I'd really like to meet her, but it was of course impossible. But I had the opportunity to meet people that knew her, such as, for example, I told you about Zan Palsy, who made so Rue Cazeneuve, but also people in France that white and not only black people but white people and every people in France that yes, everyone said she was, yeah, you very talented. And it what was really amazing is that it was as soon as she started to work, the people that will become that will become great director, they when she was starting editing, she was uh, already talented. So that's why they worked with her on so many years because if they had a movie, they really wanted her to edit it. So that's why she could work 50 years and she was faithful, and the director were faithful to her also. And that was surprising. And maybe it's all, I think, different now because, yeah, the industry maybe is different. Uh, and what was surprising for me is that she, yeah, she knew every aspect of the cinema industry and evolution. That is to say, she started with glue, and after she knew tapes, and she also discovered the digital editing. So
Wow.
that was really amazing for. She was not very old, but the digital editing started. She was already 60, almost 70, and she could edit with the computers. So that was really surprising for me.
Oh, cool. So I want to, when we started, you talked about your latest project was the one for the Olympics.
Yeah.
What is that the one you're pushing now? Is that the one that you're promoting now?
Yeah,
Or do you plan to work on something else? Do you have anything that
um,
you want to?
yeah, it's my latest one.
Mhm.
I hope it won't be my last one, but we never know. It was produced last year, so just before the Paralympics.
Okay.
It was produced in 2024 and broadcasted on national French TV. And even now, it's still broadcasted. And maybe I hope I will have some festival. And yeah, as a director, I can guess it's the same for you and many more. But we always have many projects, and we wait for a new one to, of course, to start. But by now, I do not have funding or grant, and maybe I hope soon to get some for a new one here in Martinique.
Okay, great, great. Let me ask you a question. Is there anything in the back of your your mind saying, "Oh, I wouldn't mind if I directed a feature length type of movie, not documentary." Do you have um a desire to do like a narrative movie?
Of course, yeah. I told you I was in a jury, in a youth jury in a Cannes Film Festival. And Cannes Film Festival is not for documentary movies, it's about feature films and of course, when I told myself, yeah, I will try to be a director, I thought about narrative movies. But as I liked documentary movies, I decided to study first how to make a movie, and it was easier for me to learn how to make a documentary movie because it was small team and small budget, and so it was for me it was easier. I told myself I will start like that, and maybe if I can one day I will try. And actually, I can say I tried to produce a short narrative movie, but I didn't succeed. So yeah, I gave up. Maybe one day I will, but I think I told you I think I was lucky to
Mhm.
make not hundreds of movies, but some. So I'm happy with that. And if I do not direct narrative, this won't be a problem. I was now I stopped, but I was also a producer. So I produced other directors with for I produced short narrative movies in
Okay,
the West Indies, in
okay,
French Guiana also, and also in the Indian Ocean in French territories such as La Réunion or Mayotte. So yes, for narrative movies, I prefer to be a producer.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so I want to thank you for coming on the show, and then I want to ask you, if people want to get in touch with you and find out more about your work, how can they do that? Are you on social media that they can reach out to you or, you know?
Yeah, you on Google or any other network, you can write my name and you will find me, and you will find a mail on the phone, any. And so yeah, on Facebook, I'm available. So yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I appreciate your insight into, the world of documentary filmmaking. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and I hope to see you really in, maybe soon.
I hope to see more of your work, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. This has been part 2 of a 2-part conversation with French director Jil SERVANT. This podcast has been brought to you by All Vision Caribbean and Latino Film Festival 2026 edition, which is now accepting films on Film Freeway. Submit your film today.